Greetings from sunny Tokyo. This is a long overdue update. I always resolve to do these more regularly, but lots of stuff gets in the way, namely cancer and life. So, the reason for this update, other than it being overdue, is I'm going to have surgery next month, hopefully. So, just to recap, 5 years ago I was diagnosed with terminal cancer, suddenly diagnosed with terminal cancer. So I didn't find an early stage cancer and then it progressed. At the time of diagnosis, I was told this is terminal cancer, and I was told I wasn't going to live very long. And when I kind of checked for the average life expectancy, a realistic life expectancy with good treatment was 7 to 9 months, and that's almost 5 years ago. If I make it to July, which is only a couple months away now, I'll be in the top 0.5% survivors group, and that is almost certainly just down to the immunotherapy I've had thanks to your donations. It's nothing to do with me being tough or anything else like that. It's just down to having incredibly relentless doctors and nurses who just have kept pursuing treatment even when things are getting really bad, as has happened a few times. So 5 years ago I had a big surgery and a length of my intestine was cut out, and the surgeon made a hole in the wall of my stomach and pulled out my intestine, and then that goes into a plastic bag, which is very unpleasant, and for me it's by far the worst aspect of the cancer. Everything else is very tough, but having a colostomy bag is, often life doesn't feel worth living, really. So this surgery is the first step to getting rid of the colostomy bag. It was difficult to find a surgeon who would even talk to me about doing this surgery, because the surgeon who did my original colectomy, that's when a bit of your large intestine is removed, he was against doing the surgery, even though for years he told me I could do the surgery, but it wasn't the right time. He always gave me some excuse, and then finally, when I went to see him with very good scan results, he said, "Oh, you can't have this surgery. It's not possible in my case." So I've had that big surgery 5 years ago, big abdominal surgery. A couple of years after that, I had to have a liver surgery, about half my liver removed and my gallbladder as well. And I've had radiation treatment to my liver, radiation treatment to my lung, right lung, another kind of radiation treatment to a different part of my liver, and radiation treatment to the lymph nodes near my near my spine, near something called the abdominal aorta, which is where the main blood vessel of the heart goes down through your body. So because of all this treatment and almost 5 years of continuous chemotherapy, surgery is very dangerous for me. It's very risky. Chemotherapy in particular damages your organs a lot. Radiotherapy damages the tissue it goes through. Even, I had proton beam therapy, which is one of the gentlest radiotherapies available, and also I had tomotherapy, which is another very, very gentle radiotherapy. With proton beam therapy, it's a heavy particle therapy, so these are protons, and they give up their energy very suddenly. So that means as the protons are traveling through your body, they don't do much damage, and then when they reach the target, energy is given up very suddenly, so you don't get this exit wound as they as they continue their path. They have much less energy. Tomotherapy is a X-ray based, or you could say it's a gamma ray based therapy, and the gamma ray, instead of being like one beam, I think it's 96 beams. So it consists of 96 low-powered beams, and they're all focused at a point. So the low-power beams, again, don't do so much damage as they go through your body and out the other side. But at the point where they're focused on the cancer cells, they hopefully kill the cancer cells. So even though I've had those very gentle, non-destructive radiation therapies, they still damage your body. And what happens is when they damage the healthy tissue, the fibers of the tissue, let's say a liver tissue, the fibers grow cross-links, so it becomes fibrotic tissue. So it's like kind of hard, a bit like, I guess it's a kind of scar tissue, although it's actually not a scar tissue. I think it's like your organs become partially scar tissue, I guess. And non-organ tissue, again, is damaged as well. And what this means is that in surgery, when that tissue is cut, it tends to bleed, and bleed a lot, and it's hard to stop it bleeding, which is not cool when people are cutting you up inside. Another big issue I have is that my platelet level is very low. Platelets are the little fragments of stuff in your blood that make your blood sticky. And when you have any kind of wound, platelets pile up, and that heals your body. In my case, my platelet count is low. It's hard to know why. It is probably related to damage caused by chemotherapy and radiotherapy, and particularly liver surgery. Although my blood pressure is normal, it's possible that the blood pressure inside my liver is higher than it should be, caused by the liver surgery, and having higher blood pressure in your liver can make your spleen bigger, and having an enlarged spleen can make the platelet count low, because one of the spleen's jobs is to filter your blood and catch the old platelets and destroy them, or let them die. So your spleen has these very intricate passageways to filter and catch your old platelets. But if the spleen's too big, it's catching a lot of your healthy platelets too, and that keeps your platelet count low. Having low platelet count means that when a surgeon starts cutting me up, it's going to be hard to heal. So it makes the surgery itself dangerous, it makes the healing dangerous, it makes the success of the surgery less likely, because the aim of the surgery, this initial part of the surgery, is to reconnect my large intestine and also make a hole in my small intestine so that I can have another temporary bag. So my small intestine will have a hole in, and like a loop of the small intestine will be pulled out through a hole in my abdomen, probably the same hole if you can manage it, if the surgeon can manage it, that is. and then after maybe up to 6 months of healing time, I'll have a second, much smaller surgery to deal with that. I'll probably make another very detailed video about major surgery and what it's like, because I think that's actually quite useful. I hope you never have a big surgery, or any surgery for that matter, but I think it is useful to kind of go over it in a lot of detail, because there's so much that you're not told, and some of it's quite tough when you're experiencing it, and some stuff you think is going to be a big deal isn't a big deal. So anyway, in my case, it was difficult to get a surgeon to talk to me, because they saw the report from the previous surgeon who said, Matthew should not have this surgery. And they saw my very complicated treatment history. So, I was expected to die after a few months in July 2016. And here I am about almost 5 years later now, due to your donations and the incredible treatment in Japan. There have been so many times when things could have gone badly, and when I believe they would have gone badly in other countries. But the basic level of medical care in Japan is just off the scale good. It's I've sometimes asked surgeons, particularly surgeons, are asked about certain complications, and they just laugh because they just haven't really heard about that. So, for example, sepsis. Sepsis is blood poisoning, and it's fatal, and it happens after surgery, or can happen after surgery. And with sepsis, if you develop sepsis, you really need to be given very strong antibiotics within about 15 minutes. And I was asking the surgeons in Japan about issues with sepsis. Now, sepsis is a very, very big thing at the moment in England. My understanding is it's actually, even though it's in the media, it's actually much worse than is being portrayed in the media. It's very, very, very serious. And in Japan, it's just, the surgeons didn't really think of it as a thing. They just are, they are exceptional here. Interestingly, the surgeons are also very, very risk averse. So even this odd kind of I don't know if it is a contradiction or if it is a causal thing, but like the quality of surgery here is exceptional, and they try really hard not to take risks, and a lot of that is, at least for patients, what we see is patient selection, i.e. the surgeon saying, no, we can't do the surgery for you, it's too risky. It's kind of this weird situation that they could probably do a lot of very risky surgeries, but they don't. And yet, having risky surgeries here would be less risky than other countries that don't have such good surgery. It's kind of really weird thinking about it. So, for example, in my case, I have to have my intestines reconnected, and then there's a chance that there'll be leakage, that it won't heal properly, and in the best case scenario, the surgeon may try and fix it. I don't know if that's realistic, but you might say, sorry, you're stuck with the other temporary bag. But the hospital I'm at, their average for complications when they reconnect the intestine is half the average for countries with good standard of gastrointestinal surgery. So even though my case is particularly difficult and risky, that risk is reduced at least slightly because it's an exceptionally good hospital. It's a large university hospital. The surgeon, he's a gastrointestinal surgeon, so he does surgery on people's intestines, but he is also the head of the surgical department, which is very relevant to me because it means he didn't have to ask anyone if he can do the surgery or not. If it was at a different hospital, then the surgeon would have to sort of say to or might potentially have to say to the ethics committee of the hospital, we want to do, I want to do this risky surgery. The patient understands the risk. Can we go ahead? And that can take months and months and months to get an answer. And of course, the answer could be no. And as I've said, they're particularly risk averse. So I'm incredibly fortunate to have this surgeon who will talk to me and has actually agreed to do the surgery. And it's interesting that it was very, very difficult to find a surgeon, and I had asked an oncologist who's also a surgeon to contact other surgeons, and he contacted about 10. And this surgeon that I have now was actually found from my friend Warren, a fellow cancer patient. He put me in contact with his surgeon, and there's quite a lesson in that, I think, that in Japan, where there's no real connection between hospitals, they're all kind of independent, there's not much of a big central health system, your biggest resource and the most helpful people can often be other patients. So there's all those safety risks that I've talked about with the surgery, but this surgeon has said as long as I understand the risks, he will try the surgery. It may not be successful. He may have to abandon the surgery. So the surgery is in 4 weeks' time, and in 3 weeks' time I'll have a final blood test, and it may be that my platelet level has dropped more, or my liver has started to give in, or whatever, and it may get surgery might get called off. It may be that the surgeon starts the surgery and sees cancer in my abdomen. So even though now for the past year and a half the scans haven't shown any tumours, it may be that the surgeon finds lots of small tumours that didn't show up on the scans, because the scans can only reliably see tumours that are about 5 millimeters or bigger. If the surgeon opens me up and finds finds any tumours in the abdomen, then he has to abandon the surgery. It may be that and this is unfortunately quite likely, it may be that he simply can't connect my large intestine, can't do the reconnection. And that's because of the amount of intestine that was taken out, the length of the intestine taken out. It may just not reach. In that case, he does have a plan B, but it is even worse than plan A. So plan A is pretty bad, right? So reconnecting my intestines, the resulting quality of life is not going to be good afterwards. For however long I live, life is going to be quite difficult. It's not going to magically go back to how it was 5 years ago because a big bit of my intestine has been removed. A lot of the nerve tissue is, destroyed. A lot of the muscle tissue is cut out. So it's going to be grim. But plan B, if the intestine can't reach, plan B is to cut away the transverse colon. So that's the colon that goes across your body. So it goes from the I don't know if this is going to make sense because the video might be flipped. So the Mac's just terrible for video. It's rather ironic. But the transverse colon that goes from the right side of your body across to the left. The plan is to oh no, not the okay. So you've got the transverse colon goes across and then down into your descending colon and a sigmoid colon. In my case, sigmoid colon's been cut out completely. So the plan would be to remove the descending colon and then free up the transverse colon and take it diagonally across my body to reconnect it. This would be a very, very bad thing because I'd then have even less colon than I have. So quality of life would be even worse. But that's likely. The reason that's likely is because when the surgeon reconnects my colon, it's important that the colon is not under tension, right? It shouldn't be stretching, because that means you can have lots of complications afterwards. You can imagine a big bit of your body, like an elastic band, being stretched. That's not good. So the kind of complications you get can be fatal. So that's not good. Now, your intestines are incredibly stretchy. So that sounds okay. The problem is, it's not just about your intestines stretching, it's about, they've got blood, intestines have blood vessels going to them, okay? And on the diagram that the previous surgeon did, there's a couple of blood vessels going into my transverse and descending colon. The surgeon will have to cut one of them. He cannot cut both. If he cuts both, then there won't be enough blood flow into the intestines for them to heal. So the length of those blood vessels is going to be possibly the determining factor of whether he can do the surgery or not. So there's a bunch of reasons why the surgery might not work, and it could be that the surgeon completes the surgery and then 3 months later or 6 months later he checks the condition of the intestines, and that's basically by I think they make you eat some radioactive dye or something like that and stick you in a scanner and watch it kind of go through and see if it leaks out. And it may be that there's a leak and it's impossible to risk reconnecting it. Another reason the surgery might be abandoned is if the surgeon sees any big bits of scar tissue in my pelvis in particular. Surgeons can remove scar tissue, but the reason that he would have to abandon the surgery is he has to assume there's cancer hiding behind the scar tissue. If he removed the scar tissue and then found cancer, he'd have to abandon the surgery anyway, and he would have done this dangerous thing of removing scar tissue. Removing scar tissue is dangerous. It's not a good thing to do if you can help it. And I may have a load of scar tissue definitely from the previous abdominal surgery. the gastrointestinal surgery rather, possibly I had, because I had open liver surgery and also from the radiotherapy. So the surgery is just terrifying to contemplate. It will take 8 to 10 hours if it kind of goes smoothly. And then probably 4 to 5 weeks in hospital if the surgery went smoothly and if the recovery goes okay. The surgeon actually said once it might only be 3 weeks in hospital if everything goes really well. So because of coronavirus time, the hospital can't have any visitors. You can just have like a family member can come once a week to get your laundry and bring you stuff. So that's going to be quite difficult because after abdominal surgery and presumably any tough surgery, I guess, visitors are very, very important. Having visitors kind of really encourages you to walk, and the more you can walk and the sooner you walk after the surgery, generally the quicker and better the healing will be. It's very, very difficult to walk when the surgeon has just cut you up. I had been hoping, and the surgeon had been hoping, that this would be a laparoscopic surgery, I think that's the word, like a keyhole surgery. But when he was looking at my scan a couple of weeks ago, he basically said he would have to do this as open surgery, really, which means cutting from just like below the sternum, like just at the base of the breastplate, cutting down and cutting across, opening up and digging around inside. So that's not good because keyhole surgery tends to be safer. You recover quicker and there's less chance of infection, and the recovery is less painful, although it's still very, very, very tough. So this is going to be open surgery with no visitors. As I said, I will make a detailed video about the joys of surgery. You're kind of surprisingly busy after surgery. I guess in Japan you are particularly busy after surgery because they're very, 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 very strict about checking on a patient. So you have many, 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 many visits a day from nurses and doctors wanting to question you, prod you, poke you, measure various things. More about that in another video. But I remember when I did my liver surgery, I took like a load of books with me and a load of videos to watch and stuff, and a load of stuff to do, and just didn't have any time at all. When you come out of the surgery, you are, well, I say obviously, but perhaps surprisingly, when you come out of surgery, if it's big surgery, you are in incredible pain for days and days and days. It is insanely painful. With big surgeries, it's quite common to get pneumonia. I got pneumonia both times, a collapsed lung after liver surgery. That is very painful. It's painful because you have to do a lot of deep breathing to try and, well, first of all, you have to do a lot of deep breathing after surgery to try and prevent the pneumonia. And if you get it, then you do deep breathing and also like forced coughing to clear the liquid in your lungs. But more than anything else, it's painful because they have to x-ray you a lot. and being X-rayed is it's okay if you haven't had surgery. If you've just had surgery and you're lying in a hospital bed, X-raying is incredibly painful because the X-ray team arrive with a portable X-ray machine, and you have to be lifted up and have a metal plate put under your body to do the X-ray. And a couple of days after surgery, when you've got these big gaping wounds and stuff, to be lifted up, and with abdominal surgery you have like big thick plastic pipes just coming out of your body. Like, there's just, after my liver surgery I had 3 abdominal drains, and there were thick pipes, 3 thick pipes coming out of holes in my abdomen. Really interesting that they don't get stitched up. I'm actually going to ask the surgeon about that next time, because they were seriously big pipes. I'm not exaggerating. They're thick, wide bore plastic pipes, 3 of them. And I remember them being taken out, and just had like some steri strips. Like they pinched the flesh together and put these non-stretching strips over to hold it together. Healed up fine. I mean, there's big scars, but still, I'm confused as to why they don't stitch it. So yeah, the X-rays are very, very, very painful. So I think that's it for today, really. So yeah, 5 years of treatment so far. So, that's been a lot of chemotherapy. I've had chemotherapy hundreds of times. I have taken hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of chemo pills. I've had hundreds of chemo drips. I've had a wide variety of chemotherapies. I've had all the radiation therapy and 2 very big surgeries. I haven't had chemo now for about 6 months, which is great. That's because, the reason I haven't had it is because to try and get my platelet count higher, although that hasn't worked much, and also because chemo is a toxic poison, and it impairs your body's chances of healing from surgery, so it's a good reason not to be having it now. But I'm still having treatment every week. I still go to the cancer clinic every single week. I haven't been to have immunotherapy for a while. I had it a few months ago, again thanks to your incredible donations, but I have thermal treatment, so it's called hypothermia. So every week I have a 40-minute treatment heating the areas with the cancer, and that damages cancer cells, damages healthy cells as well, but the healthy cells can start recovering about, I think it's about 20 minutes after getting the damage. Cancer cells are very poor at repair, but also that heating increases the immune cell activity in that area of the body. So, and it's the immune system that, more than anything else, it's the immune system that is responsible for certain cancer patients living a long time. That's the biggest lesson I've learned, is that it's the condition of your immune system that kind of dictates long-term survival. So that's why it's so important to avoid chemotherapy. I've had 5 years of toxic chemotherapy. If we're serious about curing cancer in the future, getting rid of chemotherapy as a treatment is an absolute priority. If you want to make cancer history, then you've got to make chemotherapy history, because it's not a selective therapy. It's very, very toxic, and it limits the patient's options for later treatment. In my case, I am very fortunate that I've had oncologists who, even though they're using chemotherapy, they at least have some understanding of how pathetic it is as a treatment. Chemotherapy is not nice, and I'm very lucky that I haven't had it for 6 months, and the previous year of chemo was low-dose chemotherapy. Still damages your body a lot, but you don't experience so much of the side effects. Thank you so much for your donations. That's why I'm alive now, really, is the donations. I'm trying to scrape together the money to get some immunotherapy shortly after the surgery, because that will lower the chances that I die within the first 30 days after the surgery, which is kind of the dangerous time, I think. So yeah, if you can share my fundraising link or whatever, that's massively appreciated. It's matthewdons.org, MATTHEWDON for November, svsierra.org. If you can share that link, that makes a big difference, because more donations means more immunotherapy, which means a longer life. And I have to say, at the 5-year point, there's a small chance that I will be cured at some point, which is amazing to think about. So thanks a lot, and more videos soon. I know I always say that, and it takes ages, but definitely a surgery video soon. Okay, cheers, bye.